How come the AP is not waving at me?
Welcome to South St. Paul City Hall and the September 23rd, 2019 meeting of the South St. Paul School Board. Wendy, will you please take the roll?
Inspector Bjorklund?
Here.
Inspector McClellan?
Here.
Inspector Walker?
Here.
Inspector Arend?
Here.
Inspector Lalaberty?
Here.
Inspector Felton is present. Inspector Diaz is absent this evening. 6 members present.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome again. Tonight we'll start off with the approval of our meeting agenda for tonight and the minutes from the past meetings. That includes the school board meeting agenda for tonight, September 23rd, 2019. The Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from September 9th, 2019, the regular board meeting minutes from September 9th, 2019, and the work session minutes from September 16th, 2019. Do I have a motion for their approval?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we add item to the agenda 6E, changing the structure of the public listening session.
Okay. Do I have a second for that amendment?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Then that is approved, and item 6E is added to the agenda and can now be approved. Any other discussion on the approval of the agenda and the minutes? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then the agenda and the minutes are approved. Thank you. Quality in action tonight. We have an exciting start with Kaposia Education Center being represented by Assistant Principal Dan Riley and Student Support Specialist Michelle Wallace, who are going to give us an update on what's going on in the building at Kaposia. And thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you for having us. You have to hit the computer button. Again, thank you for having us. I'm Dan Riley. I'm the assistant principal here at Kaposia.
And I'm Michelle Wallace, Student Support Specialist at Kaposia. Thank you for having us.
And we are fortunate enough to talk about PBIS at our school. And we are in year 4 of PBIS. And the first 2 years we had support through MDE through our grant. Last year was our first year on our own, which was great, but when you're on your own, sometimes there's some stumbling blocks. And so we had a goal this summer to talk and meet and take all the wonderful pieces that we laid down for the foundation and then just continue to try to make those better. And hopefully you hear a little bit tonight with what Michelle will be sharing with you. Some of the great things that we decided to continue and improve to make the start of the year very solid. So, with that said, oh, you already changed it for me. The work that we do focuses around the 8 essential features of a school-wide PBIS system. And tonight, we are going to be focusing on 2 mostly. You'll see that it falls into other categories, but mostly teaching the school-wide expectations that we have defined as a staff. That definition took approximately 3 years to do, and now that we feel like we have those expectations at our school, we're able to model and teach them explicitly to all the different learners that we have. And we do that through a Kaposia Code Kickoff, which you'll hear Michelle talk about.
So I also wanted to point out, he put the arrows here on school-wide expectations defined and taught. However, we've been really ramping up on number 5 and number 6 as well. You'll see us acknowledging and reinforcing the appropriate behaviors through our BBUC system. And then we also are able to utilize that BBUC system to continue to monitor and correct those behavioral errors. And so the next slide we're going to talk about are the identified and implemented research-based behavioral interventions. So as a regular classroom, you're going to be teaching all of the essential agreements, sort of like what needs to take place so that learning can happen. And this is like a positive framing around sort of what we would historically be calling our classroom rules, but we're calling them more essential agreements. And the kids are really involved in that process. And then as you're a student in the class, we discuss how sometimes maybe you might lose focus, you might feel a little fidgety, you might get distracted, you might have something else on your mind. So we're really making it an effort to teach those regulation strategies. Maybe it's something you just need to take a quick breath or a timeout from the group within the classroom while the learning is still occurring. We also teach regulation through small group reteaching opportunities. So you might see teachers taking smaller groups of students to go over and discuss or reteach certain things that they've done with the full group, and maybe these students aren't quite there yet, so the classroom teacher is trying to reiterate or try a different strategy so that the students can try it again and demonstrate that they're doing that, and that's where my staff comes into play. We would push into the classroom and support the other learning that's happening so that that main classroom teacher can continue to have that relationship with his or her students. The other piece that we're really excited about this year is we have a flow chart that shows when a behavior is unexpected, what are those behaviors and what happens when these behaviors occur. And there's certain steps that go along with it. But we're finding that different people have different characteristics to how they would manage those steps in their spaces. So in gym class versus music versus the content classroom. So what we've provided for the teachers this year is this green chart you see sort of off to the center of the middle there, blank, so that teachers can tailor it and format it for their own classroom environment and really involve the students in identifying what does it mean to be defiant in kindergarten, or what does it mean to be defiant in 5th grade, and using student-appropriate language. And then overall, this intervention is really to acknowledge and celebrate. And we already have the acknowledgement piece school-wide identified, and we're just trying to build on from that. For future thinking, we'd like to involve students more and having them involved in the assemblies or in the acknowledgement piece. Maybe we've got some really creative ideas coming from teachers and staff, and of course students as well, that want to get involved in the fun part of this too. One of the pieces that we've created last year was called the Kaposia Education Center Kickoff. And at this kickoff, what we're doing here is teaching about the common spaces and the expectations in those spaces. So we, all use the cafeteria. Well, how do we use the cafeteria in the school? You might not use your dining room the same at home, so how do we do this at school? Same thing for the hallway. Same thing for the bathrooms and all the different areas. Of course, we got this beautiful new playground last year, so that was a perfect opportunity for us to teach the expectations around how do we use our new zip line so that it's responsible, respectful, and safe. And that was really intentional language and intentional work that was done, and it took a long time before I was in this position for this team to develop that language that they all agreed upon that we're going to use with the students and reinforce regularly and consistently. The kickoff continues into our celebration space. You'll see that we've created a code for the assemblies. So along with that, we have involved, you'll see here on the top left picture, Mr. Riley working with some of our morning announcements. It served as an opportunity to showcase those students doing a special job for us, also a little advertisement to get new students doing that. I mean, it's just really a celebratory space. And then the kids were engaged in that fun opportunity there. And then also another space that continues on before and after the school day, which is, of course, our school buses, and really being mindful about our expectations there and how we want them to continue to be the best they can be in the spaces where there might just be one adult who's really doing an important job for our school, which is transporting them, and they're focused on driving. So we have to think about what we're doing while we're on the bus. And then as we continue on, you will see more and more pictures of our students engaging in this around the building. So instead of just a matrix, we might see some pictures and some star students, so to speak, showing these behaviors. You'll see the kindergartners might show the quiet hallway behavior much differently than our 5th graders will. I don't expect them to put a bubble in it, but this is one of the techniques that they use. We also have the buddy classrooms on the left-hand side. engaging in like fifth graders and first grade classrooms, kind of going over the themes, because we're pushing out sort of weekly themes. You know, what this week is being safe, and we also did the bus safety that week, or this weekend is being responsible, and we're being responsible for picking up after ourselves in the lunchroom. So we really make it a concerted focus of what we're handing out our B-Bucks for. And then every Friday, we're pulling the B-Bucks out of a random drawing, and then we announce them over the announcements, and they come to the office and get an award, and we take a picture, which we saw a little bit earlier. So for future thinking, we're just hoping to really engage our families, our students, and bring in a lot more positivity that's super apparent on the walls and in our voices and in our actions and on our faces. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions or comments?
So just if I could brag about you for 1 minute. So just 4 years worth of work is just great work. The communication and collaboration and vision that you're laying for not just students but for staff too in the building is really amazing. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for coming tonight.
And I'd like to back that up. We hear a lot of good things in town about Kaposia Education Center, and thanks for your enthusiasm and hard work. It's working.
Wonderful. Good to know. Thank you.
And I didn't get to give a special shout out to Michelle. This is her first year at that position, and her positivity and energy has just brought just a wonderful feeling to Kaposia. So when you're hearing all these positive things, it's so great to have a voice like her. We're so fortunate to have her on staff, working with our staff and our community and our families. It's been wonderful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you bet.
Same back to you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Just maybe as a summary, so they always say when students don't know how to read, we teach them how to read, and when they don't know how to do math, we teach them how to do math. For many years, we just didn't get into a really good groove about just teaching how to behave and what do we expect in school, whether it's in the cafeteria or on the way to the restroom or things that we just take for granted. And we're getting really good at just teaching everything. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the celebrations where you acknowledge the kids and what they've done, how often do those happen? I know the B-Bucks are on Fridays.
Yep, the
but-
B-Bucks are Fridays, and we went to every other last year, but there was kind of like an outcry by the kiddos are looking for that, so we went back to every Friday.
Okay.
And then the assemblies we try to do monthly, and usually they're kind of centered around a certain particular time, like Veterans
Got it.
Day or, you know, the beginning of the year, or we'll have another one coming up here for October to kick off the anti-bullying campaign.
We're also working on the school-wide side of this too. So those are individual lucky drawings, right? You put your B-Buck in the drawing and maybe your name is picked, maybe it isn't. And so we're also working on like levels. So as grade levels fill up their buckets, there might be a celebration for grade 4. You filled your bucket. So kids, what do you want to do? Oh, extra 10 minutes recess? Great. You know, so we'll do something like that. That's something that we're working on. We're also working on creating a school-wide celebration too. So when we're acknowledging kids, we also are building that community that we're all in this together. And we're trying to figure out ways to do that this year. This is where the fun stuff of PBIS happens too. Some of the foundation work is really hard and it's stressful at times. And then to be able to feel like you have a solid foundation and now get to talk about different ways to celebrate with kids that are awesome, it's really fun. So
Yeah.
different ways to celebrate.
Great. Well, it is awesome, and I can see in your faces that it must be fun too. Because you're showing that. So, again, thanks for coming tonight. Will you come up and say hi?
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Michelle.
Thanks for coming.
Nice seeing you again, Dan. I was trying to say hi to you, and you got me in trouble again. Again.
Hi, Dan.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Nice job, Dan.
Next, we'll turn to our superintendent, Dave Webb, and his district highlights for the last couple of weeks. Dr. Webb?
Thanks, Chair Walker. Just a superintendent update for tonight. We, first better get it on display here. We just came out of our committee of the whole meeting just prior to this session tonight, and just a commendation for the board. So the board heard concerns last year about just the format and structure of our public listening session. So over the past 6 months, we've really gone deep, surveyed probably 15 other school districts, brought all the data back on how they conduct their public listening session and board meetings and the like. But we really focused first on the public listening session specifically. So we started unpacking all the feedback we got from other school districts and looked at all the components and went component by component to make sure that we had the best set of recommendations that we're bringing forth tonight. So we'll recap a little bit of more of that as we move forward, but we are going to be more interactive, more engaging, allow for more conversation in our public listening session structures. We will have and maintain our 2-week opportunity for public to give feedback to us as a board. We're going to actually be across the hall prior to this on-air meeting, just to have a more informal, personal, connected session. But we're really proud of the recommendations that the board is moving forward tonight, and we hope that the community likes those as well. So that was first. Second was our board work. The board has a to-do list that they are staying focused on to make sure that all of our policies and finance and all of our HR work and good work of the school district stays on track. So we took time to focus on that again tonight. Excuse me. And then we have our proposed levy that we always have to do our initial proposal about this time of the year, and then we bring in our actual levy certification on December 9th. And we put that date in there just so people know that that's kind of our official final night prior to enacting our levy. But tonight we are doing that preliminary groundwork as well. Around the district, we have some really good news. I can't remember when we have had 3 national merit designations in one evening. So tonight we have John Deneen, and he is a national merit semifinalist, so that's great news. And we have 2 students, and I want to make sure that I'm shouting out their names correctly. So Amanda Kelly and Benjamin Path have been named commended students in the 2020 National Merit Scholarship Program. So huge deal. When you get into a commended student, I think you're in the top 34,000 in the country, so nationwide. So you have to score really high to get into this top bar. And I actually had a chance to visit with Amanda Kelly at lunchtime. They had an activities fair going on at the high school, so I ate my lunch over at the high school today and went through the activities fair. And she shared an interesting fact that I'm going to share with you tonight, too. She said that both Benjamin and Amanda are on the math team. So I don't think there's a coincidence. Those are really great activities that not a lot of schools have, but we have here. And we have a math team that has competitions with other, they call them mathletes, so math athletes. And it's just great experience. And actually the research shows, and I actually know the guy that started these math competitions about 30 years ago in the state, was my best friend's dad growing up, a longtime teacher at McAllister. But they looked at models around the country and said when kids can compete in things like mathematics at a high level, they raise all their performance through that competition. So Minnesota has that as a state. We have our students, teachers like Luke Olson, have been nurturing that for years. And it's just a great way to grow skills. And here's 2 of our national merit kids in that kind of competition. So shout out to all three of them. Probably way more than you cared to know about our kids and competition, but it's really a fun thing. South St. Paul Ed Foundation, we had our walkathon last week. Just a shout out to our fundraiser, one of our fundraisers for the Ed Foundation, and a great way to celebrate through exercise too. We have our new after-school super snack program that probably has about 250 kids that are on their way oftentimes to an after-school activity. Kids might be here till 9 o'clock at night, and they can grab and go something to tide them over for the evening and beyond. We're in the start of homecoming week. We do something cool in South St. Paul. We start the way most schools end their homecoming week. We start with the homecoming dance on Saturday night. We had a great dance. 400 plus kids showed up. They just had a bunch of fun, and then we'll have fun all week. We have a food distribution October 10th coming up, the ECFE baby shower for all kind of new families and new moms, especially in the community. And then we have that October 17th and 18th, we have no school and no kids' choice. That it says kids' choice on the non-school day. So we are having kids' choice, but no school on MEA break. This is our tree diagram. If you want to get to any of our meeting minutes and materials, and we'll go back to you, Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. Now we move into the business portion of the meeting. We'll start, as we always do, with the consent agenda, which is the financial claims and the staffing. Do I have a motion for their approval?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then the consent agenda is approved. Nothing coming forward on policy tonight. We have been promised that that'll be changing in the near future, so we'll be watching that, but nothing tonight. Next is for the South St. Paul School Board to approve the part-time teacher program with the employee paying both the employee and employer contributions. Do I have a motion for that approval?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And the motion is passed. Next is for the South St. Paul School Board to approve certifying the 2019 payable in 2020 proposed property tax levy to the maximum and declare Monday, December 9th, 2019 at 7:15 in the City Hall Council Chambers at 125 3rd Avenue North in South St. Paul as the official public hearing to certify the 2019 payable in 2020 final property tax levy. Do I have an approval for, or I'm sorry, do I have a motion for the approval of that?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We also have our Finance Director, Aaron Buschberger, here to talk to it a little bit. So we'll welcome Aaron and say thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Walker, School Board Superintendent Webb. As you're aware, at the COW meeting, we did talk in a little bit of detail regarding the levy and the process, so I'd just like to reiterate a couple points about the levy process that's upcoming. So typically what we've done in the past and what we're recommending to do again this year is approve the levy at what we call the maximum. And this allows the levy to go down if we're able to reduce the levy in some capacity. However, it can't go up anymore after today. Once we do that, the information gets sent to the county. They process the information and send out proposed property tax statements in the middle of November to district residents. And then as you mentioned and Superintendent Webb mentioned in his update, then on December 9th we'll hold our tax hearing at which time we'll go through the levy in more detail, and then at that time we will also allow for public comment as well. One piece of information I did want to point out tonight, and then we talked about at the COW meeting, is that we know the total taxable value in South St. Paul is going up by over 12%, and so we know that will have an impact on our upcoming levy that we'll look to certify in December. So again, just kind of a brief update on the upcoming steps for the levy process. And so with that, I'll ask for your approval of the proposed levy tonight.
And Aaron, can I even add a little bit more color commentary? That was
Please do.
wonderful. So when he says taxable value, I mean, like, home values in South St. Paul increased 12%, which is a wonderful thing for homeowners, and taxes increase accordingly as well.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then that motion is passed. Next is for the South St. Paul School Board to approve the 2020 Central Square Community Center operating budget. Do I have a motion for that approval?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Well, we just have a great partnership with the city, with Central Square, and so we have two parent organizations, the city and the school district, and we work together in partnership to really run the Central Square system. So tonight is just a renewal of this year's budget.
That's right. And the city will be doing the same thing, approving it on their end, and then they will have a budget. So, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then the motion passes and the Central Square budget is approved. Next, for the South St. Paul School Board to approve the lease agreement with the South St. Paul Educational Foundation. Do I have a motion for that approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
So this is a 3-year lease extension for, as you know, our district office facility. We have both the Ed Foundation and the kind of the beauty salon as kind of leased properties there. So this is specifically for our lease for the Ed Foundation that has recently expired.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And the motion is passed and the lease is approved for the Educational Foundation. Next is the item that we added earlier when we were approving the agenda, and that's for the South St. Paul School Board to approve the changes to the structure of the public listening sessions. Do I have a motion for that approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
If anybody wants to highlight something they're looking forward to in the new listening session structure, feel free. So.
I think the best part of the change is that we will be able to have a conversation with anybody that shows up for the listening session. Previously, it was strictly a listening session where we just did that, we listened, and now this will afford us the opportunity to have a discussion with them and ask questions and get a little deeper into what they want to talk about. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, these listening sessions will be held down here at City Hall, just right across the hall from where we meet now, currently in the room directly to the north of us here. We do ask, however, if you are planning on coming, if at all possible, please pre-register. You can go online and get your name and information that's asked for there, or you fill out the sheet as you come to the meeting that night. But if at all possible, let us know ahead of time so we can make sure we have a lot of time for everyone that's coming, because we only do have a 25-minute time that we can listen to residents, starting at 6:45 until 7:10. So in order for us to accommodate everyone that may want to come down, please let us know so we can make arrangements for the time allotments as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Any other discussion or comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then the motion passes and the changes to the listening sessions are approved. Well, thank you. That's the business portion. Now we'll move to our informational items where we give each board member a chance to comment on what they've been doing or seeing or what they're thinking. And we'll start with Patty.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. And Jeff.
Nothing tonight.
All right, I'm off to my left with Nikki
Nothing tonight.
and Bill.
Nothing tonight.
All right, and Wendy.
No, just a couple things today. I had the opportunity to volunteer with the Educational Foundation Walkathon last week, helped handed out hot dogs. And I just want to thank everyone who volunteered to put that on. A huge thank to Carrie and her staff, for Sharon and Terry that were there and got everything organized. And I'd just like to call attention to the students that participated, that received the T-shirts that they could wear. If you notice on the back of the T-shirts that the students are wearing, sponsors of this event. So we ask that you support those sponsors on the backs of the T-shirt. Just recognize them, let them know that you appreciate their support for our students. It's really a great event. It's a lot of fun, so I know the kids enjoy it. And it was a perfect day for it, too, so that really helped. And as Dr. Webb mentioned earlier, it is homecoming week, so we look forward to all of the homecoming activities. There are each building, Lincoln Center, Kaposia, and the secondary, each day of the week they're supporting a different type of event, whether it's wearing a certain type of clothing, recognizing as a superstar, different types of activities throughout the buildings that you can participate in. So we look forward to having students being involved with those events. And then kind of the culmination of the entire week amongst all of the sporting events, activities that are going on, the homecoming football game Friday evening at Ettinger Field, starting at 7 o'clock. We look forward to everyone attending. It's always a fun night with all the music and the dancers and the players, and everyone is so excited. So please come support our activities this week during homecoming week. And also, as I mentioned before, the fall theater musical, the cast has been set. It's Once Upon a Mattress, which will be presented starting Friday, November 8th through Sunday, November 10th. 2 evening performances and 2 matinees, so it'll be really fun. If you can't go at night, there's 2 o'clock shows. You know, try and take advantage of that. And as always, senior citizens do get in free. Please call and make advance reservations to get your tickets, though. So we look forward to the theater musical presentation. And everyone have a safe homecoming week, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Wendy. And we do not have a special session tonight, so I'm just looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And we are adjourned.
Did we get this?